like my babies. I take care of them. I look after them. What's really been important to me is that I need to ensure continuity of care. I will be honest with everyone. I wasn't seeking out social media fame or anything. I didn't even know what that was. I'm quite like an elder millennial. I'm more like a lurker. And then I started winding down a little bit, and then other things took a few priorities. When I started off, I was on TikTok, but I didn't even post on Instagram. I had an account. I just neglected it. I was like, oh no, TikTok's gonna rule everything. When I was younger, I was bullied a lot. And then at some point, I think for me, I just stopped caring because I understood that person, however they choose to respond to, whether it's me or another creator. That's just...
Today's show is a little different because I have two people on the show today. Dr. Eileen Lee is pregnant, so her baby is also part of the show, and hopefully TCM rock star in training. That's what I think is going to happen. In today's show, we talked about a lot of different things. What to do when you're pregnant as a practitioner to make sure your patients are taken care of. She is a second-generation TCM practitioner, so it runs in her family. So we talked about this and why she chose TCM and to continue the lineage, and also having an advantage of speaking Mandarin, which I'm so envious. But we also talked about who Eileen is on social media, which is a powerhouse with 1 million followers on Instagram and so many more on other platforms. So you're going to hear all about this, how she does it, why she did it, how it all came about, how she decided to go on social media, and what came after. We talked about trolls, we talked about creating content and what that entitles and what her mission is, which is to promote the benefit of TCM. So without further ado, let's do it. So today I'm welcoming two guests to the AcuPro Show. Dr. Eileen Lee is here. Well, she's also pregnant and a few weeks from giving birth. So baby Lee is also here. I'm so grateful that you took the time while being at the end of your pregnancy to come on the AcuPro Show. So thank you, and welcome and congratulations on being a new mama in a few weeks.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to join you and that we were able to make this work because I love chit-chatting with you in the DMs, and I'm so excited to take it here on the podcast with you.
Thank you. It's interesting because I think a lot of us have met online. We've never met in person, but we feel a connection. Obviously, our love for TCM is there, but there's a lot that make us connect, and that's because when we are sharing videos of ourselves trying to educate the world about the amazing benefits of TCM, I feel like I know you because when I see you and, you're talking about Heart 7 or Admian or Do 26 or all the millions of views that you get online, I'm just like, well, I know Dr. Eileen. I feel like I know you. So this is so cool. And I just wanted to start by introducing everyone that's listening to you. If they don't know who you are, they will know you after this for sure. The first thing is you are an acupuncturist in the States, in the East Coast. What I love about the fact that you're practicing is that you're a second-generation Chinese medicine practitioner. You followed in the footstep of your mama, and then maybe baby Lee will follow in your footstep. We'll see what happened in that next generation. So you started as a physical therapist.
I did.
And then you decided to go and follow your mama's footstep and get into TCM. Why did you do that? Can you share with us?
I was wicked stubborn as a kid, but I think my mom had a lot of foresight. She's Chinese, to be more specific. Coming from parents of immigrants, they always have a certain expectation. They were like, oh, you could be anything, doctor, lawyer, engineer.
Anything but doctor, lawyer, engineer.
Yeah, doctor, lawyer, engineer. That's anything. And my family were very supportive of me, but they really emphasized on Eileen, you need to have a form of financial stability. Your personality can shine in your career, but the most important is that you're self-sufficient and you're able to take good care of yourself. So there's a really practical portion of my upbringing. And it's really funny because my mom, the time when we had this conversation, she was in TCM school. And at the time, TCM used to be a commuter program. in New York City, the school that she went to, I would go to school with her on the weekends and I'd be so bored out of my mind. And I would think, wow, this place smells so earthy. I just didn't know what I was doing there. But in a really, really weird way, subconsciously, I felt like it was so ingrained into my upbringing. Growing up, Tylenol wasn't a thing in my house. We have literally 15-year-old Tylenol sitting in the medicine cabinet that we just haven't touched. Anyways, going back to this whole like career discovery that my parents emphasized with me, I was like, I like being active and I like helping people. So I took this career test and then I was like, oh, you should be a physical therapist. And I was like, that's it. 17 years old, I'm becoming a physical therapist. When you're that young, you don't have a lot of life experiences. So you're just collecting data as you're going along in life and realizing like, you could have like more than one career much later on. I went to school for 6 years straight, 3 years of undergrad, 3 years of grad school. It was an accelerated program. Then I worked as a physical therapist, which I loved, but I ceilinged out after about 5 years. And I worked in chronic pain research, pediatrics, I worked in geriatrics, orthosports. The first couple of years were exciting. And then after about 27, 28, this is it. Is this all I really have to offer? Because I could have gone more into the nuances of research and get more specific, but I just feel like I could be offering something so much more. Naturally, in my high school, especially in college and into my 20s, I've always utilized Chinese medicine in some informal fashion with my close friends when I lived in Boston, whether that was like cupping or an herbal formula when we were sick. It just came so organically to me because I grew up with it. I daddled with the conversation with my mom because she not predicted my future, but maybe planted in my head, hey, Eileen, no matter what, I think you're going to end up being a Chinese medicine practitioner. And I was like, no, I'm not. No, I'm not doing this. But then one day I came to my own conclusions about what I want to do. And I was like, I don't really have anything else to lose. Maybe I want to do graphic design or marketing or business. I just applied while I was working as a physical therapist. And I applied to the only acupuncture school in Massachusetts. I got in. Well, let's just go for it. Let's just see what happens. If I were to be honest, the first year, I was still unsure. I've seen my mom go through the schooling. She seems to have a good practice. Then later on, probably by the third year, I really started to love it. And I think it's because we entered clinic rotations and getting more clinic experience. I just saw how fast my patients were getting better compared to when I was a physical therapist. For those who don't know, with physical therapy, it's an incredibly effective tool, rehabilitative exercises and whatnot. But there is some time that needs to be had when you're doing physical rehabilitation compared to acupuncture, where results are like most of the time very instant. So you immediately buy this trust with your patients. After I graduated from acupuncture school, I really began to love herbs, even though I loved studying it during my actual practice in school. So now where I'm at is I have a general practice with a couple of specialties like treating chronic pain, treating orthopedic issues, seeing women's health, and also specializing in herbs.
It's interesting because you were 17 and you decided to go into physical therapy. At 18, they asked me, what do you want to do? I had no clue. I just wanted to be happy. I know what I want to do, which is amazing because you're so young. So you've done 6 years, then you practiced as a physical therapist. Then you went back to school and you did your degree in TCM. By the time you were like 30, you had done so much. Not only that, the physical therapy knowledge fast forward your understanding of anatomy and musculoskeletal when you so much. So that's definitely an advantage right there.
Yeah.
And then when you go into treating patients with pain, you can also give them exercise and other things because you have that background. So
right.
That's just great. Now, I had a question for you because you said I really gravitate toward herbs. And it was the same for me. Herbs took me a while. I was like, it's so hard, specifically because all the herbs were in Chinese. I don't speak Chinese, right? So does your mom speak Mandarin? Did you learn Mandarin?
Yeah, my first language is actually Mandarin. My second is English. However, my reading and writing is a little shaky. It's a little bit better. I'm a little better at reading than I am at writing. That was an advantage for me in TCM school for sure, because I grew up with speaking Mandarin, not medical TCM language Mandarin that I had to learn, but the general gist of things, because Chinese is a very contextual language. There's so many meanings to just one word. When I was studying, there was certain parts where I understand that like tea can mean 4 or 5 different things, but I don't know if other people like understand that it's not just what we commonly associate with the energy, right? There's actually a different word for energy when it comes to tea. I was thinking of all the different words or radicals like attached to the word tea. It was definitely an advantage. When I was in TCM school, it just made sense to me that this was what my mom was talking about. A lot of the people in our culture, believe it or not, is really ingrained into as a lifestyle, drinking warm or hot water. That's really the lifestyle thing for most people, but they don't understand that it has roots in like the actual medicine. I feel very lucky to be able to speak the language, and I really try to keep up with it as well.
That's great because you don't want to lose it. Obviously, my first language is French and English is my second language. You can hear that. But I'm losing my French. I feel like I'm not practicing it. So when I have to figure out a word, I'm like, oh, what's that word in French? So it's really good that you're keeping up with it. Having the cultural advantage, understanding the language is such a great advantage. However, I know also that you're a hard worker and you're very dedicated. That's also an advantage as you as a person. Now you're pregnant and you're going to be a mama, baby coming up. A lot of practitioners, specifically women practitioners, when they are pregnant, they have to figure out, because we are all self-employed, they have to have a plan. What is your plan about taking some time off? How long you're going to take? And what does that look like for you?
Oh, that's a great question. I am very much a planner. I like to joke that I've always been a mom. My patients are like my babies. I take care of them. I look after them. What's really been important to me is that I need to ensure continuity of care. So I am self-employed. I run a full-time clinic, front desk, cleaning, clinician, scheduling, everything. What's been really important is doing what's right for my patient and not just stopping care. I've never been the kind of clinician to hoard my patients. It's really important that they continue to receive care so that they continue to get better or maintain results. For me, it's being able to refer out to colleagues that I trust and I know that treat the case. That's number one. Number two, during my maternity leave, I will still be offering herbal medicine, which is like really beautiful, that they can still come in, pick up herbs, whether it's like capsules or granules. There is something that is there for them to be able to continue to heal until I get back for more direct acupuncture services. Then the plan for me to leave, that I struggled with a little bit, but 2 months time at this moment, good enough for me. I want to return part-time. I really focused on how I want to channel my energy, because now it's not just me and my partner in this life. We have a little one who is very demanding and doesn't run on a schedule yet. So we will have to figure the dynamics and the nuances of what does it mean to have an additional family member who doesn't understand logic yet. So for me, I'm really just focused on making sure my patients are well taken care of, and that's very well communicated to them in email and text, in person, so that they're prepared for that type of transition. And my maternity leave, I'm treating it as healing time, not just about taking care of my baby, but it's also about taking care of myself. And that means nourishing my body. That's another really important thing, with good food and good herbs, getting treatment, and decreasing stress, accepting that this is a period of my time where I have to surrender. And surrendering doesn't look like I gave up anything. Surrendering just means that this is a time of passivity where someone is asking something else from me, and the most important person still at the end of the day is me, in order for me to ensure that like my little one can thrive in the best way possible.
That's great way to look at it. Another thing too that I think you have the advantage is that cultural background, because as a Chinese culture, you're supposed to take a lot of time to rest after you had your baby, because birth is very young in nature. We need that yin time, that recovery time, that healing time. Right? And that's the thing that I see in North America specifically, is with patients, 3 days after they give birth, they're at the mall going around. And I'm like,
no.
you know what I mean? oh my, stay home,
Yeah.
rest, learn from the culture, learn from the TCM
Yeah.
perspective, learn to give control away and for other people to help and do
Oh,
all the
yeah.
stuff that you're not supposed to do, like cleaning and cooking.
Yeah, I actually had this, like, conversation with a friend the other day. She just had a kid, and she's had her baby for almost a year, and I think probably about 2 months earlier, postpartum hit her a little bit harder, like, a little bit of the mood, the depression started setting in, and for me, I expressed to her, "I have all the tools, I know the culture and everything, but I also can't predict what's going to happen to me." When you are pregnant and then postpartum after you give birth, it's very normal for women to feel a hormonal drop. Like, it's just your body's been manipulated for the last 9 to 10 months, and now it's trying to find self-regulation again. And that really just takes time, but also I think the number one thing is, like, being able to be cognizant of how you're responding to stress. I think the number one thing here is you can eat all the good foods and everything, and you're doing all the right things, but if you're not taking care of the stresses, if you don't have the right village that supports you, then I can see why postpartum depression happens and, like, why anxiety happens. And for me, I'm very fortunate to have a village. I'm also really self-aware to know when to ask for help. So, as self-sufficient as I am, it's also really important for me to step up and say, "Hey, like, I need help and I need this weight off my shoulders so that I can do X, Y, and Z, so I can sleep, so I can be a better me tomorrow."
It's exciting. So you're going to step back a bit, but still take care of everything, which I think is awesome.
If you lack in confidence treating pregnant women, my complete TCM treatments for pregnancy online course is definitely for you. Over the years, I have seen how amazing Chinese medicine is when it comes to treating pregnancy issues, preparing patients for labor, and for post-childbirth recovery. I have helped countless of women through their pregnancy journey from postnatal care to post-childbirth. I created this course specifically to give you the confidence in treating pregnancy patients successfully and, most importantly, safely. You will get 6 continuing education hours after you pass a multiple choice quiz and receive a certificate. You can download the PDF versions of the slides. You have access to the course forever, so you can watch it over and over again if you need to. And I offer a 7-day money-back guarantee because I stand behind my products and I want to make sure my courses are very beneficial to you and to your patients. Listen to what people who invested in this course had to say. Unfortunately, the education I received at school around cervical ripening and induction was extremely minimal. I appreciate all your resources so much. My patients respond so well when I tweak my treatment to what I have learned through your course. I don't know what I would do without your expertise and your love for sharing TCM. You are the best. This makes my day because this is why I do what I do. To invest in my complete TCM treatment for pregnancy, check out the link in the show notes below or go to my website, AcuProAcademy.com, and click the TCM course tab on the menu bar.
We have to talk about how we met, which is on social media. And one of the things about you that I said when we first started is, okay, so if people don't know you, they're going to find you very quickly if they haven't yet. So I want everybody to know that Eileen has 1 million followers on Instagram as this recording is happening right now. 1 million. Yes, you heard that well. This is TCM niche. Okay. We understand that acupuncture and TCM
Sure.
is a very specific subject. She's 1 million on Instagram. So over 600,000 on TikTok, over 500,000 on Facebook. And she's on her way. She's almost there, 10,000 on YouTube. And if you've never been on YouTube, you know that it's a slow marathon growth, but it's longer lasting than the other platform. That's why I love YouTube.
Mhm.
Altogether, you have over 2.2 million followers with all your main platforms. And a lot of your shorts, TikTok, reels, whatever we call them, short form videos, vertical videos, have had millions of views, some of them 23 million, 17 million.
Claire,
Like
you
it's
keep
just,
more track than I do.
oh, I went and looked. I was like, okay, I got to see this. One of them that did really well on all platform is when you talked about Do 26 being able
Yes.
to revive people that
Mhm.
fainted. I love when you talk about the Anmian, the snooze button
Mhm.
behind your ear, how to massage it to go to sleep. What I love about when you go on social media is the way you present the information, which is easy to understand for everyone. You make it interesting. You always have an analogy, like you always go, hey, we're going to do this, or we're going to do the train, or we're going to do that. And it's very specific to you. You formed a way of explaining everything that is so Eileen. That's what I refer to it when I watch it. You have a really busy practice. You love what you do.
Mhm.
So why did you decide to go on social media to educate the world about Chinese medicine? And is that to bring patients or for other reasons?
Well, it's funny. It was super accidental. So I will be honest with everyone. I wasn't seeking out social media fame or anything. I didn't even know what that was. I'm quite like an elder millennial. I'm more like a lurker. I love to watch TikToks, watch YouTube. But when I started off my business, I had struggled with marketing, and I also was in a completely new territory. I had moved from Boston after living there for 13 years. So my whole network was just like gone overnight. I moved back home during the pandemic to start my business here in Connecticut. I didn't have any connections. I knew a couple of acupuncturists locally, but it was online through social media. And I was still deciding what I was going to craft like in my business, basically. So social media was like really the only thing I could do during the pandemic. And as people became less scared of like germs and viruses, it was a good period of time where TikTok was booming and people were staying at home and people's mental health were worsening, physical ailments were worsening. They soon realized, oh, a lot of their own medical doctors aren't spending as much time with them, or they're not receiving the same kind of services, or they just also had more time to pay attention. So I think I just walked into social media at the right time. I also had a really great business mentor who really encouraged me to go on TikTok and start making short form videos. And I will be honest with you, I felt so pathetic. I was like, this is weird. Who is watching this and who is listening? It's so funny because I go back and look at some of my original content. I would challenge myself, okay, Lean, like no editing, just say it straight through for 1 minute. And then eventually I found ways to like edit, make it more engaging. So the whole point of me starting the whole social media was really to start elevating my business and giving it more exposure so I could receive new clients so they knew about me locally. I had no plans that it was going to go international, but it did help my business overall because so many eyes were watching me. It got people wondering, who is like Dr. Eileen Lee? People would Google me and publications would start asking for my professional advice on stuff. And for me to be able to spread the joy of Chinese medicine in whatever fashion, I'm like super enthusiastic. I'm saying yes to all these things because what's the worst that's going to happen? And then that's how my business also started picking up and blossoming. When you start a small business, there's so many times where you want to give up and you're just like, will anyone see me? Will anyone want to participate and need my services? But I really do believe there's always somebody out there for everybody. So for me, that's how my social media quote unquote fame began. And I also just had a really good time making content. It wasn't just seeing my patients in the clinic get better. I got to see how people felt like my quick tips helped them. And that's very rewarding to me. I would also help followers find acupuncturists as well, or like herbalists, try to help them get the care that they need. It just brought me a lot of happiness to be able to give that kind of advice because our community, our discipline is so small and I think misunderstood and not well explained that I also saw it as this is great for my business, but I also love simplifying things. What people may look at this profession as super mystique when it really isn't. I want people to have more buy in and try acupuncture. It's less to convince somebody behind their phone versus marketing to them locally. So at the end of the day, whoever I'm able to help globally or locally, it's just been such a blessing for me. And whatever comes my way in social media, I'm just grateful.
That's awesome. There's a couple of things that I want to dive into a little bit more. When you first started, You said, oh my gosh, it was horrible being on camera, looking at yourself. I totally get that because I was the same. If you look back on YouTube, for example, my first video, I look like a robot. My arms are not moving. My eyes look so scared. And then
Yeah.
I'm talking so bizarre. Like it's
Hmm.
not even me. I'm not natural
Yeah.
because I'm so uncomfortable. One of the things that I think is when I see you, you're beautiful. Like you have a beautiful
Oh,
smile, you're really pretty, and then you're always smiling. You're always really happy, smiling looking, which is really great in sharing the medicine because you could see you're passionate about it, right? And that's something that I struggle with at the beginning is who's going to listen to me? I'm not pretty. I don't have straight teeth. I have an
hmm
accent. Who am I to be online? I'm not better than the other acupuncturists down the road.
hmm
All those imposter syndrome were really something I struggle with. But in the end, just like you, it's about helping one person at a time or two people or
Absolutely.
five people. And if that makes an impact and help, if I can help students understand the concept better and make their day, then who cares what I look like or what I sound like? That I love that you did that, that you just went, well, I'm just going to do it and then see what happened. And I'm just enjoying it. And that's also another thing. If you're not enjoying it, it's not going to be consistent. It's not going to be fun and you're not going to keep up with it. So my next question is how do you stay consistent? Do you
Mm.
batch your content because you're busy at home? You're also pregnant now. Do you repurpose your content? I mean, you've been in a lot of press. Like this brought you a lot of press. I know you were on the HuffPost and the Sun and all different kind of
Yeah.
newspapers. So that really brings a lot of work as well, plus taking care of your patients. And so, how do you manage all this?
Well, I'll tell you this much. It was much easier before I was pregnant. It's funny, like some of my perspective has shifted, but I'll tell you, I started off. If anyone wants to be successful in this, it's true that you need to be consistent. You need to also understand a bit of your niche. Who are you talking to? And it's okay if you don't know it right away. Just start talking. One, it's good practice. I think when I first started off posting on social media, I would post once or twice a day. And it went on like that for about a year. And then
Wow.
I started winding down a little bit, and then other things took a few priorities. When I started off, I was on TikTok. I didn't even post on Instagram. I had an account, I just neglected it. I was like, "Oh no, TikTok's gonna rule everything." It wasn't small-minded, I just was so laser focused that on my enjoyment with TikTok because to me it's a much more like real platform. People are very relaxed. You don't have to look perfect all the time. You could just talk. It's like you're FaceTiming with friends. And then I translated some of my content onto Instagram, which also did very well, then to Facebook and so on. The number one thing is when you're starting off in social media, whether it's marketing or you want to be a creator in this domain, is to definitely be consistent and making sure that the message that you're trying to get across could be explained in 60 seconds or less because people's attention spans are incredibly short these days. And that's what I did for about a year. And then there was periods of burnout. If I were to be quite honest with you, like I have been burned out a couple times. And when you talked about the batch creating, I did batch create at times. And sometimes like I just did better on the fly. Like I would just like after work make a video or two and then the next day edit the video and then post it. So I know some people maybe it works for you like batching everything on one day, editing the next day and then subsequently deciding when to post. That's definitely a layout that works for some people. This is the style that just happens to work for me. But at some points, I started to burn out. I've actually expressed this to a couple friends where I love to be able to share information and it's great that content goes viral. But I had like virality burnout where like I shared and then like things go viral and people loved the content that I produced. If the next thing wasn't what they wanted, they didn't like it anymore. Whether it's like an unfollow or then there's a really nasty comment or a skepticism in their tone. As much as you're building consistency in terms of the content you're producing, I had to learn how to be very diplomatic and understand when I got a hate comment or when I got whatever type of like skepticism comment. I always try to look at the comment from the lens of why are they saying what they're saying so that we can speak on the same level and we don't have to agree, but I don't want my message to be misconstrued. It's great to go viral, but then you have to keep up with all your comments. And then there was times I was just like, I want to take a break. And there was like nothing wrong with taking a break, but I felt so guilty. Like people were looking forward to my content. And for me, that allowed me to come back more rejuvenated, to make better content or to make more in depth content. And for me now, posting content is about what I'm enjoying. But I have to be honest with you, like in this current phase of my life, consistency is just me showing up in whatever form, whether it's stories a few times a week. It's that period of time where you're still there, but you don't need to go full on all the time. It's okay to take breaks. So, my advice anybody who's feeling burned out, do not feel guilty about taking breaks. It's okay. Even my goals of creating has changed as well. First, it was just for marketing and trying to build a business. And then, oh, I want to help people. Not just being a content creator, is also doing a little bit of influencing. What products do I use in my everyday life? And I really am strict about the products that I use and endorse, because there's a lot of people taking paid partnerships for not a lot of good reasons. And for me, it's, well, this is my integrity, this is my brand, and I want people to better understand why this lives in my medicine cabinet as much as should live in yours. There's so many ways you can invent yourself in social media. And I don't know about you, Clara, but it's also a lot to keep up with. The different platforms that you have to jump on. I always laugh when I jump on a new platform and I'm like, oh, she's already there. And you're like, hi.
Yeah, I like to check things out because I like to
Yeah.
test things. Recently, I wanted to thank you because you came in my DM and were very supportive, and so were hundreds and hundreds of people. But I had a really tough time on Instagram because I had really bad trolls, a couple of
Mm,
them in one day that just got to me, plus emails that were quite stressful to me. And I
mm,
cried and I had a big crying session. And usually those things, I'm like, ah, if you don't like it, it's okay, whatever. But when you attack me, it becomes really just really painful and it hurt me. And I'm very sensitive to those things. And so I was really upset. And I decided to tell everyone that I'm having a bad day. This is really hard. And I received 647 DMs. I tried to answer everybody because I was so touched and it really made me feel so much better, because I feel like why focus on two or three bad trolls versus 97% of people that are so happy and are benefiting from what
mm.
you're sharing or what I'm
Right.
sharing. So my question is, how do you handle trolls, mean people? Obviously, you can block, you can delete, but you've seen it. Like I've
Mm,
read it. I can block you and delete you. However, I've already read it and it hurt my heart. So do you
mm.
self protect? Are you that person that can self protect really easily?
Yeah, I like to think so. I think that came with experience too. When I was younger, I was bullied a lot. And then at some point, I think for me, I just stopped caring because I understood that person, however they choose to respond to whether it's me or another creator, that's just not how I was raised, right? And I think when we say hurtful things, it speaks a lot more about the person, not because like I choose to look at them as like evil or they're rude, but also they're probably very hurt as well. And if I keep that in mind, like it kind of levels out the situation, which kind of goes back to why I said when I respond to hate comments, I just try to be very diplomatic and try to present the facts. And yeah, it's very easy to like delete and block somebody. But the thing is, we have to remember that it's been a lot easier over the last decade or two, to especially now, to hide on social media. People feel very brave to say things that they would actually never say to your face in real life, because if that were happening to me every single day, that'd be happening to me on a consistent basis, and that's a totally different story. So that's not happening to me. I don't believe that's happening to you in person. Yeah, exactly. So I think it's a matter of just understanding that it's not personal. People are on their own journey about the way they suffer, the way they choose to believe in this medicine, because it's like what you said, there's more people who are very enthusiastic and wanting to learn more than there are people who are feeling very skeptical. I will talk about followers for a second here, where it's okay, these people feel skeptical, small percentage compared to the number of people who are like, I didn't know about acupuncture points and I didn't know about gua sha. I didn't know about this herb. I didn't know about this tea. So for me, looking at the bigger picture of things is the most important. Even when they're rude, I still try to come from a place of kindness and understand that I don't need to be like that. I think it's completely normal, Clara, to feel upset. I think when we're more forgiving of people that we have to choose to accept and realize like one, they were raised differently, two, that you would never speak that way to somebody with differences than yours, then it levels things out a bit and you don't take it as personally. But it's totally okay to feel sometimes if it is personal. But the most important thing is that you obviously have like unwavering support, plenty of people who are on your side of the good team that want to see
I'm
you continue to create and do well, help you remember this is why you're doing what you're doing.
It's exactly it. You're absolutely right. It's focusing on the people and the impact you make. I think sometimes we forget, we see numbers and we're like, oh, 1,000 people. It feels like it's just a number. Imagine if there was 1,000 people in front of you and you'd be on a stage and people are waiting for you to give them something. You're like, oh my gosh, like
Yeah.
that's a lot of people, right? So it's focusing on that. And sometimes, yes, things get out of hand and people hurt. And I always think whatever I'm writing down on social media, I don't want to hurt anybody. I don't want to offend anybody. I'm trying to educate. And if you're going to be, a mean person, most of the time I'm pretty easy about it. I'm like, okay, thank you. Sometimes once in a while, you're right. It's okay to just get really hurt and allow it to go through and then allowing to let it go. So I really appreciate you being here, sharing your journey specifically on social media, because you've done something that a lot of us as practitioners look towards. So it's always good to look up to someone and go, wow, look at our medicine. It's been brought up by there's so many creators in TCM now that are online, that are sharing their knowledge. And I love to see that, because the more of all of us, the better for this medicine for everyone. So I
Yeah.
thank you for jumping on the TikTok. That's where I found you first a few years ago, and doing you and being you and utilize your creativity to shine a light on this medicine. I also want to wish you the best birth
Thank
and the
you.
best fun time with baby Lee when baby Lee comes
Yes.
out and all happy and smiling and crying and all the fun stuff that's going to happen after birth. But any final thoughts you want to share with everybody before we say goodbye for today?
Well, I don't think everybody knows that when I first, quote unquote, met Clara, I first found her through YouTube when I was a student. And I loved her voice, her French Canadian accent so much. It was very mesmerizing when I was studying. So I would actually look at your videos. Your voice was so captivating that I was able to retain a lot of the information. And I know your niche is to cater towards like TCM students or practitioners. So for me, I want to thank you for being a colleague, but also being an unofficial teacher from the YouTube world. So when you followed me on TikTok or wherever we first initiated DMs, I was like, oh my gosh, I know you. Forget me, like I know you. So it's been so great to see how we've been able to give back not just to the public, but also to each other in this discipline, in this space, and that we choose to continue to associate with each other. I just always love watching you. And I love seeing you dominate and all the great resources that you give away for free. It's been such a help for me when I was a student. So I just wanted to thank you.
Oh, thank you. That's so sweet. I'm so glad we found each other. And I love that you were watching and then you became a content creator. And that to me is awesome, because you learned the medicine and then you took it upon yourself to go and do and give to the world the knowledge that you acquired, and from obviously culturally family, but also from school and your
Yeah.
license and your doctorate. And that's what I like about you when I first found you on TikTok, I was like, she's so natural. She's doing this thing that's so herself. Nobody else is doing it the way she does it. And that's what makes you unique. And
Thank you
so
so much.
I wish you the best in everything you're doing, specifically with being a mama, and continue to be you, do you, and promote TCM.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for spending your time with me today. I truly hope you benefited from this episode, and I would love for you to share it with a friend that may benefit from it as well. Follow the show, leave a review, and if you want more, go to my website, AcuProAcademy.com. I have tons of resources there with treatment protocols, case studies, free courses, and so much more. And connect with me on all social media at AcuPro Academy. I'm on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, X, Pinterest, and LinkedIn and TikTok. And no matter what, keep rocking it using TCM. Please listen to the disclaimer, because the AcuPro Show podcast and material shared through AcuPro Academy, which is a subdivision of Natural Health Sense Incorporated, are designed solely for educational and entertainment purposes. The utilization of information from this podcast or any associated material is at the user's discretion and risk. This content is not meant to replace the guidance of an acupuncturist, Chinese medicine doctor, medical doctor, physician, or any qualified professional, nor is it a substitute for proper diagnosis or treatment. Users are strongly advised not to ignore or postpone seeking medical advice for any existing medical condition with their healthcare professional regarding any health concerns.